Hi, my name is Steve Gotch. I'm from Jama Software, and today we're going to cover velocity reporting the velocity reporting is a template engine that is best used for creating Word documents or Excel documents. It's a great way to get information out of the system. What's nice about the velocity reports is it allows your users to take the information that they are viewing and put that into a report. If you access the reports without any information in the background, you'll see that you only have the Global Reports tabs. These reports are parameter specific, and these are covered in our BERT section of another video. If we close this, click on a set, and then open our reports again, we can now see we have these current view reports. So these reports are going to be supplied with the data that the user is looking at. So if we were to pick a requirements document, select the Word format, and run the report, Contour will generate a report where we have the name of the organization and the project, as well as the different headings and descriptions within the report. So our focus today is going to be to create a simple velocity document. So we're going to review what velocity syntax is and what the template looks like, how to change or how to convert a Word document into a velocity document, and then to upload and run your report. So to get started with, I've created a sample report. It's very simple. We can see that I have a title here, sample report. I've got a project name here that I'm using, and we're applying the subtitle style. And as we scroll down, you can see I have a page break and then a heading with where I'm going to put the requirement name. Here's some descriptive text, and then I have a table where I'm going to put in two of our field values from Contour. So the first thing I'm going to do with this report is I'm going to save it as an HTML file. Velocity's templates use the HTML and then the syntax that you're going to insert to parse through the object that's been passed to it from Contour. So the easiest way to start with the document is to simply take a Word document and then save that as HTML. Once I've saved this document, I can close it, and then I'm going to use TextPad to view my report in the HTML. However, I don't want to see it rendered like Word would. I want to see it in text. And so I'm going to open this up with TextPad. Any text editor will work. So when we first open this, we can see that there's already a lot of information available to us. Now, most of this information you see at the top of the file is word-specific text. And if you want, you can remove all this text without interfering with the report. It doesn't hurt anything, but it's just a lot of extraneous material that just adds to the file. But once we get below this top section, now we can see where the font definitions are. So when Word transferred this into an HTML format, it included all of the font styles as well as the different heading styles that were used for the document. So here we can see our heading 1, the normal text, and the other heading pieces that were included. Now, depending on your needs, you probably best start with your own company template for whatever report you're creating, and so you can ensure all the styles and fonts that are going to be used in that report are available to you in this file. As we scroll to the bottom, here we can see the actual content of the document. So here we have the title and the project name. We can see that the title style is applied as well as the subtitle style. And so these were preserved when you save them from Word into HTML. As we scroll down a little bit further, we can see the heading 1 with the requirement name, the description, as well as the table I inserted to hold the label as well as the value. Now at this point, this can be saved as a velocity template and uploaded into Contour to be ran as a report. So let's do that real quick just so you can get a feeling for how simple it is to upload a document and run it. So the velocity template extension is VM. And so this lets Contour know, as well as yourself, that this is a velocity template. Once I've saved this, it's still just a regular text file, and it's just going to be now something that Contour can recognize. So let's switch over to Contour and go into the administration section. Within the administration section, there's a reports area. Now, when you first come in here, you're not going to have any reports. The reports that are included with Contour are within the system administration area, and I'll show you how to access those and to look at those templates as a starting place. So let's add our new report. We're going to give it a name, so we'll call it sample report. I'm going to set the report type. So for this report, we're going to do velocity. I'm going to select HTML and Microsoft Word as the outputs and upload the file. I could give it a description if I wanted. The organization is going to be the name of your company. This is not something you're going to have to worry about, but it's just a value you want to make sure is populated. It's going to be visible to users. I want it to be context sensitive, so this is going to make sure that it shows up in the current view reports tab. And I'm also want to sort the items. So this value is going to ensure that the view I see in the right hand side is passed to my report. I could have added a class path. So this is a Java class that would allow us to potentially do some work on the server within Java and then pass that information to the report, but it's likely not something you're going to get into. And lastly, I could add some criteria. So if our report was going to be ran by a specific date field or on a specific set, we could add that additional piece in here. For our reports today, we're just going to leave that empty. So once I've saved the report here, we can quickly look at the edit file and see that it's the same HTML essentially that we were working with within TextPad. So I'm going to cancel this and go back to our project. So if I were to access the reports now, I wouldn't have that current view reports. But when I click on the requirements set, and this could be anything within the tool that populates this screen. So it could also be a filter or a release, anything that gives you that detail over here. When I access this, we're going to have the current view reports tab. So now if we access our sample report, we're going to click Word and run this. So now we can see that our title and our project name have been kept. We have the page break from the front page, and now our requirement name, which is heading 1, and the description and our table. If you wanted numbering as part of your template, you could have set that up initially with the template. For today, we're just going to list out our requirements. So now we've got our template, we've got the report running, we like the format. Let's insert some data. Before we do that, I'm going to jump into the help section here and show you our custom reports area. So the important part within the custom reports piece here is we have some information on the fields and how you can get the information from Velocity. So within these different sections, we highlight the different formats as well as some of the pieces that are needed for Excel. If we look at the velocity report syntax, we have some information on the looping as well as the conditional statements that you can use and some examples. If you click on the velocity link here, you can actually come into the Apache Velocity project and have all the documentation that is available there as well. It's very good documentation. I highly recommend looking into it. If we come back to our help, we can look at the contour objects. And so this is what's going to be handed to the velocity report from Contour that you can access within your template. The main item here that's of interest is the document list. And so this object contains all of these different items as well as the fields that go along with it. So if we look at the list here, we can see where we have the different document pieces, the creation dates, as well as the name and descriptions, and the types of data that it is. And so this is just helpful in knowing what sorts of data you're going to get out. Uh, we'll do an example of this, so this will be a lot clearer to you. But if you scroll through here, you can see the information that you get by default, as well as the project information. But there's also some utilities that you can use to do sorting, work with your dates, potentially do some light math. And so if you want to add up some totals, do some different types of percentages, you can do that within the tool. So we're going to go back to our template and look through here. Now, one of the things that I want to note is that when I uploaded this template, it went into the Contour home directory I have configured for my installation. So if we look at the installation directory for our system, we can see that there is a reports folder And within this reports folder, there is a BERT folder and a velocity folder. And so these are the reports that come out of the box with Contour, and it's a great resource to get you up and running to see how these reports that you already can run and see how they are put together. But once you upload a report, we're going to put that into the home directory, and in this situation I've set up a home directory called Redside. It's the name of the sample organization. And I can see here I have a reports folder, again with the velocity, and then here I can see where our sample report has been uploaded to. So this is the actual file that Contour is going to access to run that report. So if I were to edit our sample report here, I would need to upload it again to Contour before I would see the effects. If I'm going to do several iterations of development, I find that it's easiest just to edit this file directly and make it available to Contour immediately. To give you an example of this, I'm going to scroll down, and then here where we have the requirement name, I'm going to insert, this is the requirement name, hello. I'm going to save this and then go back to Contour, run our reports, grab our sample report, and I'm just going to do HTML this time, it's a little bit quicker, and I can see that hello is there. So it's a nice quick way to do this. Now you're going to want to make sure that you have your environment installed locally and that you're not going to do this on a production environment. So that's a big piece that you're going to want to have in place before you start. And our first video gives you an overview of how to set up your own environment. So now that we know we can make changes directly to our files, let's start thinking about what sort of information we want. Now, we've already set this up to where we have the requirement name as well as the description, but we need to work with that object that's been handed to the report and cycle through all the different requirements that you see. To do this, we have to have a for loop. To begin inserting data into our report, we're going to come to the area where we want to loop through our information and add it to the report. So we don't know if there are 5 items coming to our report, 1 or 1,000. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cycle through the object that Contour has handed us, and for each one of those pieces, we're going to insert that text into the heading, the description, and then the status table that we've created. To do that, we're going to need a for loop. And so the syntax from velocity has a pound sign that is before the word. And again, we do highly recommend that you go to the velocity reference guide and look at the different syntax and methods and pieces that you can work with there. But I'm going to do a for loop. Now, what I'm going to be looping through is one large object that's been handed to velocity. This object is the document list. And this is the same document list from our help file here at the top. So this is the master object that's going to be given to us by Contour. Now this object contains everything that we're viewing within our report. So in our situation here, we have 17 different items that were a part of this view. And so we're going to get 17 individual objects within this. And so we're going to need to cycle through those and work with them individually. So to do this, we first need to grab a parameter, and we'll just call it VDoc, and say in document list. So this parameter can be called whatever you want it to be. You're just essentially giving it a placeholder to put each of these different items into as we work through it. So the next thing we need for every for loop and for every conditional statement, we need an end. And so I'm going to go here to below the last piece of our document, and I'm going to put in an end. And so now I'm going to run through this for as many items that have been passed to us and insert them here. So now that we have our document list, we've grabbed the individual item from the document list, we're going to put the name in. So we're going to insert it here. If we look at our sample here, we want to work with the document and we want the name. And so I'm going to have the VDoc, which is the name of the parameter. I want the document value, and then I want the name. The next section here is the description. We're going to have our variable. We're going to look at the document, and then we want the description. So now we should have the name and the description here within our text. The next piece here is the status. And so the status is a field value that is a lookup. And the reason why I know this is a lookup is because in my administration view, I can look at the template for the organization of these pieces. Now you can quickly discover this just by looking at the different values within the report. But if you want to know how that information is stored in the background, you're going to need to go into the administration piece. We cover this in a little bit more detail on the overview, but if we look at the different templates here, and we're going to be looking at a requirements template, and we click on the configuration, we can see the different fields that we have access to and the names that they have in the back end here. So if we go back to our report, we know that that's a status field. So I'm going to again have my parameter, the document, and I want the status. And so we'll do this one more time here for our priority. So I've now entered in the VDoc into these different places. And so now when the system comes in and evaluates this, it's going to have that large group of items that we've passed it. And it's going to grab the first one. It's going to insert the name, description, priority status, and it's going to come back through and loop and grab the next one. And it's going to do this until it cycles through all of the different items that have been handed to it. So we're going to hit save. And since again we are working on the uploaded report, not the report we originally created, this is something we can run immediately and see the results. So I'm going to go back into Contour, get out of our administration view here. This report is based on information that's going to be passed to it from the view that the person sees. So let's run our new report. And here, once we've run a report, we can see it's still the sample report with our project name, and we can populate these values if we want using the same variables we used to set up the report. As you can see, we have the name and the description. If we go back to the application, we'll close our reports, we can see that we have the overview, and if we jump into the overview, we can see its description. So we can see that we've pulled that text successfully into our report. If I return back to the report and scroll down, we'll see that our status and priority were not successfully brought in. However, they were brought in as text, and this is because Velocity was unable to determine what these fields were. If we scroll down a little further and see the status in our second item, we can see that Velocity was able to find the information for our status and priority. However, these values had more information within them. What we really wanted was the name, and so here we have the approved and unassigned. There are other pieces in here with the lookups as far as the IDs and potentially descriptions that you could have pulled, but we really want to focus on the name. So let's go back to our template and we'll just add the name value here. This will solve our problem in this scenario where we have more information here that we can get to. However, above, we don't have these values. Velocity did not know what to do with these. If we go back into a Contour and scroll down, we can see that this overview item is actually a folder and that it is not set up to have the status or priority values. And so to handle this, and something that's a good practice in general, is to put in a conditional statement that will first check to see if that value exists prior to trying to populate it. So we'll do that here. And to do this, we're going to insert an if statement. So again, these are all available in the documentation, but I'm going to put in a number sign if. It's got to be within the brackets to test the condition, as well as have an end statement to close the conditional statement. Now, we're just going to check to see if it exists. And so if it's not there, your conditional statement will fail. So this is a very simple statement. And so if it exists, we're going to print out the value. And then we're going to repeat this again here for our priority. And the spacing and the returns doesn't really matter within here because it is just doing the displays and normal HTML rendering. So I'm going to put again if the conditional statement, and we're going to copy this, our value, and then of course we need to close our conditional statement. So I'm going to save this Return to Contour. We'll close that prior report. We're going to access the reports again and run it again within HTML just because it's a little bit quicker. Scroll down. So now we can see there's no values here. Now you could have also opted to put the conditional statement around these labels and had it check there. And so if you're really looking to have maybe a little bit cleaner report where you don't put in the labels if the fields don't exist, that's something that's easily done. If we scroll down to our problem statement, which was the item that had those values, we can now see that the two values have been placed in here. So we have a status of approved and a priority that's unassigned. So hopefully with these tips, you'll be able to create your own reports and get familiar with Velocity. There's a lot of things you can do with the tool, and I think as you become familiar with working with the syntax and the looping features and the conditional statements, you'll be able to create the documents that you need. This concludes our video on velocity reporting and the creation of documents. I hope it's been helpful, and if you have any questions, please contact us at Jama Support. Thank you.